Ooh, ooh, ooh. Ladies, gentlemen, gamers, and fellow anime enjoyers, welcome back. So, I finally watched season 2 of Jujutsu Kaisen, or as I like to call it, Bubutsu Baisen. There's a lot to unload and unpack here. Hopefully, this video won't go over 20 minutes as I usually do, but the sky's the limit. So, my typical history with JJK. I actually don't remember if I reviewed season 1. I probably should have checked it, but I don't really care enough. But assuming I didn't, there's one big thing I have to say. Now, obviously, as always, this will include light spoilers for season 2, as well as major spoilers for season 1. So, if you haven't seen my potential review for season 1, if I ever made it, or if you haven't seen season 1 or the movies, aka movie, the one movie, JJK 0, which I also did review recently, I know I reviewed that, stop this right now and go watch them, unless you don't care about spoilers. If you don't care, then keep watching. Either way, the one major thing I will have to do here is I am very, very saddened at myself. Now, I've been wanting to watch JJK Season 2 for a very, very long time. However, once I got a JOB, the word that shall not be named, I didn't watch anything. And I got behind, although I didn't mind this because things stacked up and I could watch things however I wanted once the time finally came, which lo and behold, the time is now because I'm unemployed. So I actually didn't mind missing out, but the sad part is I saw certain things here and there. My friends were talking about it, it was the talk of the town. I didn't really mind being involved in the talks of the town, but the main thing I didn't like was I was finding out little tidbits here and there, nothing major, but little tidbits here and there about stuff from JJK Season 2. You know, occasionally you can't avoid all spoilers, and that was a little painful. However, I was hearing that Season 2 of JJK was very, very good, and this is where I'm kind of upset at myself. After watching and finishing JJK Season 2 here, I'm so angry that I rated in my personal list where I write all the shows down and I rate them. I rated JJK Season 1 a 9 out of 10. And I'll just, spoil the magic surprise here. I'll pull the rug out from everyone's feet. JJK Season 2 absolutely beats the dog shit out of JJK Season 1. It's not even funny, it's not even a joke. However, this is where a lot of people in my group, those around me, really dislike, well, I don't even say a lot of people, I would say some specific people, dislike JJK Season 1. And it really hyped up Season 2, but it also really shined a bad light on Season 1. And I'll be honest, after rewatching Season 1 in preparation for Season 2, I think Season 1 holds a very significant spot because it's setting the world up. Now, again, Season 2, leagues above Season 1. I don't think I could watch Season 1 again and enjoy it after watching Season 2 because I've been spoiled. I've had good fucking food, as Gordon Ramsay would say. So this is where, again, for a long time I've been waiting to watch JJK Season 2. I knew for a long time it would be good. I've been hearing it was good. It was amazing. And I was really, really looking forward to it. So I wanted to watch other shows beforehand. I wanted to get done with all of my exterior business. Even while being unemployed, I still had business. I got rid of it, and I watched it. Now, it's going to be kind of hard to say some stuff without going to spoilers, but essentially, I thought almost all of the season was amazing. I originally watched Moist Critical's review of JJK Season 2 as Moist Meter of it. And he is a very big throater and stroker of JJK in general. So, Season 1, he said, was, really, really good. It was great, peak fighting, this, and that. If you want to get into fighting anime, watch JJK. And for the most part, I typically kind of agreed with him. But looking back now, I disagree with Season 1. I swear to God, everything about Season 1 just gets, diminished, except in terms of its significance of building up the world. All of the payoff really comes in Season 2 because they basically have to describe and explain almost nothing. You get straight nuts to butts into the action, and the best part is, it's pretty good action. There are some negatives I will go into, and there's always the one thing I mentioned with JJK that I mentioned in the movie as well, but is really apparent here, and it was sad too. But they get nuts to butts into the action right away, and once it starts with the action, it really, really doesn't stop. So the whole season pretty much covers the Shibuya arc. It kind of picks off directly after Season 1, I don't know how long, but it can't be too long. But there's a little bit of a time skip during the beginning of the season. The beginning of the season for season two is the tamest it will be for the rest of the show. And I thought, okay, the middle beginning is good, the middle is good, the middle end is good, the end is good. At what point are they going to slow down? And they never did. Even till I would say the very last episode, until the very end, it was just constant action, reveals, discovery. It was epic. It was amazing. And that's one of the other great parts. JJK, from what I just saw, really turned me around to think about the story. I didn't think the story would be this good. I didn't think there would this be this much of a want for me to see what happens in the future. But my God, were the setups so good. Season one is setting up for the world. Season two is using action and then setting up, in my opinion, more action. I am so shocked by the revelations I learned. I'm left with questions, which is good. They don't have to answer everything. Some of it was a little confusing. But in general, it was absolutely amazing. It wasn't just straight monkey bananas action, it was action with a purpose where they weaved in just the right perfect amount of story in between. It was heavenly. Now, the main thing that I do have a complaint about, and I guess it could be kind of split into a couple complaints. This is where there's no surprise that obviously when this was airing, a lot of stuff came out, and I mentioned this again with my movie review, where the studio animators at Mappa were kind of, how do you say, slaves. I don't think they were allowed to go home. I think they were chained to the desk and they just had to slave away. And we heard horror stories from them. And the sad part is, especially with Japanese society, is they worked so hard. They were the ones who were getting the shit end of the stick, and they were the ones feeling bad about it. They were apologizing to us, the fans, when realistically the studio should be the one apologizing to them. But that's not how things work over there, and it's really sad to see that they were basically threatened like, hey, if you don't work like a slave, we're gonna kick you off the project and we're gonna get someone new. And it's kind of like the Amazon approach, where it's like, how can they run through all these animators? And these are good animators, don't get me wrong. But if you run through the good animators, eventually you're gonna get shit ones, and then you're just gonna keep running through them, and then eventually it's gonna degrade the whole experience. And instead of, what was happening was they were blaming the worker, when again they should be blaming the studio. But it is what it is. It's really sad because at the end of the day, as a consumer, and as most consumers, I don't think we really care enough to make a change. We might sob a little tear for them online. We might put a little sad face emoji, but at the end of the day, as long as we get a good product, we don't really care, and not much is really going to change. So it is what it is. And that is kind of where I think one of the weakest parts of season two was, if any of the weakest parts at all. Season two, some moments, the animation kind of dipped. It kind of looked a little sloppy, a little lazy, a little quickened. Maybe they ran out of budget. Maybe they ran out of sanity. I don't know. But, and especially for one of my favorite fights, man, they really, really near the end of the fight, just like, I don't want to say gave up, but the animation did lessen to a great extent where I was really upset. Now, granted, I can't have my cake and eat it too. I know that, right? Because with an anime like this, where all these episodes had action that was really greatly choreographed, really greatly animated, they had to take it from somewhere. I'm just sad they took it from one of my favorite fights. And I'll just, I'll spoil a little bit here. It was a fight with Sakuna, where they took out some of the budget for the animation. I was really, really sad the whole way through. The fight was really good. It's just kind of near the end, in some parts they were like, oh, okay, I see they're dipping the quality here. But it's just really sad. I don't even know if it was a budget problem too. I think it was also just a time problem. I don't think these people had enough time because they were working under strict deadlines. Because I think right as the episodes were airing, right before is when they finished. I have no clue if that's actually true, but I think that's what I heard. Now, obviously, it's been a while since it's come out, so I don't know for sure. Even more so, but it could have been a bunch of things. It was just sad that that was the only blemish on this very, very beautiful season of JJK season two. And just to really glaze it some more here, because again, that's pretty much the only negative I have. Oh, actually, wait, no, there's one more negative. So, JJK season two, in terms of story, and this is a positive I'm going to mix in with it, is really good in terms of, again, not only the reveals, not only like setting up stuff for the future, but not setting up stuff like the groundwork. This isn't groundwork they're setting up anymore. They're using a reveal to set up another reveal later down the line. And it's like, wow, this is getting really fucking crazy. And I can't go into specifics, but there's a lot of things that I thought I knew and I just really, really didn't know. Now, and that's both on the villain and on the hero side. Mostly for the villain side, though. A lot of the curses, Now that I look back, I'm like, holy shit, I understand why characters did what they did. And it really gives me a new perspective on things. It really, really does. Now, again, the fights were amazingly choreographed. However, season two, having great story, great fights, comes with a lot of tragedy. And this is where the author's not afraid to pull punches. He didn't pull, or he pulled a couple of them, right? There's some times where they kind of, and by that I mean Gege kind of left himself an out, or he kind of put some hope for the fans, which is fine for the general populace. But season two is a lot darker, and it's like, holy shit, people are dying. Like, major people are dying. And it's like, wow, we're not in Candyland no more. We're not in season one where everything's hunky dory. And I really, really like stories that aren't afraid to do that. Now, they can't do it excessively, or else it becomes really, really depressing and then people get angry. But it has to be done. It can't be fairy tale where no one dies, right? Fairy tale is just power, friendship saves all. It needs to be a good middle ground. And I think JJK almost hit that perfectly, nearly perfectly. It's just there's sometimes where Gege kind of put, again, an out for people where it's like, okay, this person might obviously be dead, but you're like, oh, someone in the story says, oh, we might be able to do something. And there's a very specific instance where that happens where I personally liked it, but at the same time, I thought it was bullshit. Because, a lot of characters here that people like are going to get fisted. Now, the extent of the fisting, who fucking knows? But it's some hard fisting all around. Now, some get it harder than others, but holy shit, one of the characters where the fisting happened to, it really made me angry. Now, this is where almost every fight was choreographed really well, and the voice acting, mwah, I can't believe it. Mahito has one of the greatest voice actors for a villain I think I've heard. The noises he makes, the voice acting he does, just his character in general. I know a lot of people hate Mahito, and I do in certain respects, but god do I love this guy too. The VA went absolutely crazy where Mahito, you could tell he's just enjoying himself. He is a sick individual. His character came off loud and fucking clear. I understand this guy is a fucking psychopath. Like, it is insane. When he's grabbing people, tossing them around, transfiguring them, violating them, or just having a good time going, nuts to butts with someone, he's going like, ooh, ee, ah. Like, he's just going crazy. And the amount of sounds he's making, it got to a point where it was just straight sounds. And again, they don't skimp out on the fighting. The fighting lasts for a while, so you hear a lot of his sounds. There's a lot of fighting, a lot of great choreographed fighting, a lot of great sounds. Almost everything was good, barring the animation sometimes. But one of the major things that ended up happening was one character in particular, and this is a pretty decently big character. They got ham-fisted, and I could kind of understand a little bit of an argument as to why it happened this way, but there's some times where things didn't make sense, characters' motivations. Not fully. They didn't like come out of left field. I could kind of understand it in a way, but it was really like, damn, you're really pushing them towards this. Huh? There's two characters in particular I'm thinking of. I don't want to say their names for spoiler reasons, but there's two characters that, in very close proximity of each other, made really big decisions to do certain things where, I'll tell you what they are. I won't tell you the characters, but I'll tell you what they are. The first character decided to keep going. And after something happened to them, I was thinking, okay, they have to tap out. They got to like go on the sidelines. No, they decided to keep going. And once you realize who I'm talking about, because I think it'll be pretty obvious of like, why does this character keep going? I think you'll realize like, okay, we know who I'm talking about. But it just made me question like all they had to do was leave and then they could have came back, but instead they kept going, and it, for the type of person is, it didn't make logical sense except if they explain it from the fact of like, oh, they were just determined, or oh, like, it was already over, they didn't know if they could make it, they just kind of were like, okay, let's just try, let's just say fuck it, right? I can understand it in that sense a little bit. However, the other character where the other blemish happened, they literally just stood there. I'll be honest, the only way you can explain it to me, and there is ways you can explain it, I'm not saying there's not, which is good. They, again, Gege writes outs for certain people. But the way they explained it, or the way that I can imagine them explaining is, hey, they were shocked at the situation. They were so flabbergasted they didn't move, even though this situation, and they're a trained person, allegedly. They're a trained person that's supposed to be used to this sort of thing, or is supposed to be kind of like, they're combatants, right? this person just stood there and almost in a way let it happen, and I was like, there's no way this happened. But aside from those two instances where I kind of questioned the character's decision making, everything else was again literally perfect. The fighting was great. The amount of fighting is amazing. Like, I really want to stress how fucking good this was. I don't want the negatives to come off as huge negatives. They were just like little momentary lapses of judgment, little questions. I was like, oh, what the hell? Like, damn, it kind of seemed like they just did that for like plot purposes or whatever. But oh my sweet god, if you haven't seen season 2 and you see season 1, or even if you haven't, I think, like Moist Critical, if you just like action anime, you're going to love this shit. Now, the only other complaint I do kind of have, right, and this is not a major complaint by any means, but Yuji, and I kind of mentioned this from the movie as well, Yuji is really, really boring in my eyes. I don't understand, and there's a little bit towards the end that we find out that kind of makes him a little bit more interesting, but it's with an asterisk because we don't know, because the story's still unfolding. God knows when the next season or movie is going to come out, but hopefully they reveal some more of them. But Yuji as a main character, I think kind of sucks. And this is where, I'm a little bit different, but there's stuff that happens to Yuji where he reacts a certain way. I'm like, wow, he's kind of a bitch. But it's normal, like, it's understandable, especially for his character. I'm just like, wow, he's kind of a bitch now, and I really see it. But it's like, bruh, his fights, even though they're well choreographed, they're kind of just a little boring because he isn't really unique. And this is where, in the story, both in season 2 and in season 1, maybe in the movie, I don't remember if it happened there, but characters in the show like to say things that are just not true. Now, again, they're not the end all be all definitive source for truth, right? And I'll give you an example. Gojo in season 1 always said, oh, my students can all be on my level. Nobara, Yuji, Megumi, they can all be on my level. I'm training them and they can all reach my level. That is one of the biggest lies I've ever heard. Another thing from season 1. Toto said, wow, Yuji is stronger than me physically. Now, if he's putting in cursed energy, maybe, but just raw brute strength, unless they're using anime bullshit, which they probably are, Yuji should not be stronger. Now, in season 2, they do a lot of this, and I kind of noticed it. This isn't really part of the complaint, but it is something that propped up that I was like, oh, this happened kind of often, is that they use percentages a lot. A lot of different characters that are very smart, by the way, like 2 in particular that are extremely, extremely smart characters, say situations, they're like, oh, if this person does this, there's a 99% chance we succeed. If that person isn't here, there's a 99% chance we win. And they kept using 99 very, very specifically. I'm like, wow. And, I guess in the end, you can kind of see if they're right or wrong, depending on how things play out. But they say a lot of percentages very confidently. But the main thing is, you can't trust what characters say all the time. Now, I'm trying to think of anything else in season 2 that I could really glaze. I'm pretty sure that's about it. I'm always pretty sure I'm forgetting something. But yeah, season 2 was just really, really amazing. Like, the fights were amazing. Most of them, almost all of them. The animation dipped a little bit, but in general, it's non-stop fucking action with great story, great reveals that really makes me want more for the future. It is going wild. I cannot wait. It's just Yuji's a little boring. And, oh, I remember the thing. I actually didn't finish the thought. So, the main thing with Yuji that they said, again, from season 1, is that the more fingers he consumes, the more he'll etch Sukana's abilities into his body. Yuji hasn't done jack shit, and I'll just kind of say this right now, except for punch. Like, punching and Black Flash, which anyone can really do, that's not really specific to him, but punching and Black Flash is pretty much all Yuji has. Again, they're choreographed very well, but everyone else has a nice little ability that they can use that kind of makes their things different from just punching and jumping. And again, it looks nice with Yuji. I don't want to say it doesn't, but it's just like, damn. Yuji as a character, I kind of understand why people don't like him. He's alright, he's an alright guy, but he's kind of a bitch and he's not really interesting. Yuta should have been the main character again from the movie. But oh my god, man, it's just so good. Like, especially the fight scenes with Mahito. There's certain things, and I actually went back to the manga and I compared this, especially with the Sukuna fight, when Sukuna fights someone. I can't say who, because he does fight multiple people, but Sukuna ends up fighting someone. And in that fight, I went back to the manga and I watched it, and I was like, wow, they really, really expanded on it in the anime. In the anime, they do such a good job of choreographing things, man. It is actually insane. The Sukuna fight, and especially Mahito's fights, you could see, and they even mention it in the anime, Mahito has become way more creative with how he fights, and you could see it. This guy, it really is the sky's the limit. This guy can alter his body, he can alter the composition of the soul, and he does exactly that. Like, he gets so creative. It is an absolute joy to not only watch him, but to hear him. Like I said, he makes a lot of noises. The VAs go absolutely fucking crazy. I think most characters that are actually relevant in this thing have a decent time to shine. There's a lot of big reveals, a lot of big returns as well. It was just wild, man. I don't know what else I could say. This was amazing. So I'm over the 20-minute mark, sadly. I didn't want to go this far, but I always do. I can't stop and help myself from glazing. But oh my god, was it so good. So to kind of rate it, I will definitely rate this show, and even though this rating kind of won't make sense because there's 20, not 10, I would rate this, I'll even rate it out of 20, fuck it. I'll rate this shit like a 19 out of 20 sucking of fingers. It's not perfect, and to kind of bring this back to my normal rating system, I would rate this probably like, I want to say like at least a 9.5. No matter what, it has to be whatever I rated season 1. And I kind of wanted to grade my rating for season 1, but at the time that's what I thought it was, so I don't want to change it. But my rating for season 1 was a 9. I regret that so hard after watching season 2. Season 2 is at least a 9.5. I don't want to say it's a 9.9. It wasn't perfect, but it is one of the best, closest shows. Like, I don't know how they could top this season. I honestly don't. There was so much hype, so many characters like you expected to fight. A lot of ones you didn't that just pop up. It is just insane. Like, at least a 9.5, at least, out of 10 Sakanas. Like, holy shit. Holy fucking shit. It's so good. If you haven't seen it, please see it. Anyway, that's my opinion on the show. That's my glazing time being over. I hope everyone enjoyed. And please watch me on Twitch TV/Tecnics channel, where I stream occasionally. Hope everyone enjoyed. Eee!